Okay, this is John Black, super chemist. Here to talk about why can't women make decisions? Why can't they just say yes or no? Uh, okay, there are many reasons why. Okay, but the main one is, and when I say main, I don't mean like it's 90% of it. I just mean it's more than 50% of the problem. Okay, how the brain. See, men and women have different brains. Okay, so they work differently. All right. That's why they process information different than a man's brain processes information. Okay, and we're going to talk about one of those things. Or a couple of those things. One of the main things, though, is that your brain is actually separated into two hemispheres. You actually have two brains. I want you to think of it like you have two brains. All right, a left and a right hemisphere, and then in between the brains you have a bundle of nerves, right? Like a band of nerves or whatever that connect the one brain to the other brain, right? The left hemisphere to the right hemisphere, right? And they call that a corpus callosum. Callosum? I can't. But we're going to call that the bundle of nerves, okay? So the bundle of nerves is basically a communication device. It lets the right side talk to the left side, okay? So that they can talk to each other, all right? And in a female's brain, the bundle of nerves is giant, okay? It's giant. In a man, those bundle of nerves are very tiny, okay? So who gives a crap? What does that have to do with decision making? Okay, here's where the thing comes. What I want you to think of, okay? I want you to think of the two hemispheres, right? It's two separate brains. I want you to think of a little man, okay? Two little men. One little guy is in this brain, right, in the left hemisphere, and one little guy is in this hemisphere of your brain, in the right hemisphere, okay? And they're each hemisphere is 6 feet of cement, okay? Think of them like they're in a prison, right? This little guy's in this hemisphere prison, and this guy's in this hemisphere prison, right? And the prison walls are 6 feet wide, made of brick, and a bunch of sound insulation stuff, okay? And in between the two, in between the two cells, right, or the two hemispheres, there's a hole, okay? In a man, okay, between the two gel cells, the hole is the diameter of a pencil, okay? So that if this guy, the only way these two guys can actually communicate with each other is this guy has to put his ear, one guy has to put his ear right up to that little hole, and the other guy talking in the other cell, he has to put his mouth right up to the thing and start and talk loud. And then that's the only way they can. If either one of them move a foot or two away from the hole, they can't hear the other person. Okay, they're cut off. Okay, and that little hole that burrows through that 6 feet of cement and that insulation and soundproofing, that little hole represents the corpus callosum, or whatever you pronounce it, the bundle of nerves, the communication center between the two little guys, the two hemispheres, okay? Now, can you picture that? Two cells, two guys, little hole. They can only talk to each other if they get really close to the hole so that they can hear each other, okay? One is dominant and one is submissive, okay? All right? Relative to each other. Okay? It doesn't mean that one side is, like Genghis Khan and the other guy is like some vegetable in a hospital that can't move, okay? It just means that he's slightly dominant. One of them has to be at least slightly or more dominant than the other half, okay? So let's say you have a decision you have to make, and you need a yes or no answer, right? So your input is taken through your ears and it goes to your brain, right? You know what the question is, right? You have your two little guys, right? Because you got two brains, right? And you tell both of the guys what your problem is. What are they going to do? They're going to both go over to the little hole so that they can hear each other and talk to each other, and they're going to talk out what they're going to do, right? And then the dominant guy is going to make the final decision, okay? He's going to walk away from the hole, okay? And even if the submissive guy is, disagrees still, he can scream and yell and and step up on, bang on the walls. He can do whatever he wants. The dominant side is not going to hear him at that point because he's walked a foot or more away from the hole, right? Then he makes his decision and he puts that into your, comes out of your brain and out of your mouth what you're going to say, right? All sounds simple. Now I want you to have the same, scenario with a woman's brain, right? It's like two different prison cells. There's two little people, two little dudes, or you can say women. I'll probably keep calling them dudes though. But two little dudes in the brain, right? One's dominant, one's submissive. They have a little hole that they can talk to, and then the dominant one is going to make the final decision. Okay, but remember, the little hole represents the bundle of nerves, right? And we said the bundle of nerves in a woman's brain was giant compared to the bundle of nerves in a man's brain. So now we have to make the hole as big as a door. Okay, now you have two cells. They're separated by 6 feet of concrete and soundproofing insulation. Okay, but the hole in between the two cells are the size of a door. Okay. Now, same scenario. You have a question, goes into the ear, goes to the brain, two little guys. You got the dominant, the submissive one. They go to the door. They can never enter into the other side, you know what I mean? They have to stay in there. They can only go to the door. They go to the door, they discuss everything, right? Then the dominant part of the brain decides exactly what's going to happen. He walks away from the door, and he's getting ready to make his decision, just like it happened in the man's brain, right? And then he makes the decision, and it goes out, down to the mouth, and the woman tells the yes or no, right? But I want you to think about it. In the man's brain, the dominant side can walk away and never hear the submissive person ever again, okay? Now I want you to think about it, all right? You have a woman's brain now. If you're a dude, you have a woman's brain, okay? All right? Or, if you're a woman, you already have a woman's brain. If you're a man, pretend you have a woman's brain. Think about it. You have the dominant side goes over, they talk, go to the door and they talk. When the dominant guy goes away, he has to hear this submissive guy in the other side of the brain telling him, no, I don't want to do that. In the man's brain, the dominant side doesn't hear that. It doesn't affect him in any way, shape, or form because he walked away and he can't hear it. But in the woman's brain, because they have this big giant communication between the two sides of the brain, just like a big giant door, right? When the dominant man or woman, I guess, in the brain walks away, she can still hear the other side. It's annoying. It's chaos. It's chaos. Think about it. Every time you have a decision, in a man's brain, you have two people. One decides and walks away, and that's it. When you have a woman's brain, you have two sides. They just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. The dominant side can never take over because it keeps getting gnawed away with the submissive side yelling at them, saying, I don't believe that way. We should do it this way. We should do it this way. We should do it this way. If you had a brain like that, I'm asking men, would you make decisions easy? Would you make them like that? Would you be walking back and forth? You can never tell yes or no. You kind of answer every question you can except for the question was asked. Do you know? That is one of the major things. And see, every man knew this back in the day. Okay, they may not have known that it was because of these bundle of nerves, but the concept, the basic concept of the two rooms in the big hole in the brain. They didn't have they didn't have that analogy or whatever, but everyone, even including women, it wasn't like men just walked around saying, oh, women do this. Women said it too. It was in the common knowledge. But today, right, it's misogynistic, it's transphobic, you're racist, You know, you can't. Facts are racist. Facts are misogynistic. Yeah. She can't say facts. No, 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 no. We're all the same. Men aren't leaders. That's what it is. They don't want men to be leaders. Okay, and because that's the only defense in anything is the leader. So if you take the leader away, the people, the masses, they're defenseless against the deep state, the government, or whoever. So anyways, now we have our main reason why women cannot make decisions in general. And don't tell me about, oh, I'm a woman, or I know this woman, and they just make decisions like that, blah, blah. Well, then you're mentally retarded, and you don't know what that means when I say in general, okay? Because when I say in general, that means most, and not all, okay? So you showed you're a moron. And I want you to go onto YouTube, okay? You put in corpus callosum, right? Cutting for seizures. Because there's a bunch of videos on there proving that you do have two, your brain is two people. You literally have two people in your brain. I'm not saying like metaphorically, I'm saying literally. You have two people. You have two different brains that are connected up with a bundle of nerves, okay? That's fact, right? It's not some kind of analogy. You literally have two brains, okay? I want you to understand the whole full implication of this, okay? This means that you literally have two brains in your head. Each brain having its own wants, needs, and ideas about how things should be done. Okay. You have the dominant side that you can see, like right now you can see my dominant side, I talk to you, blah, blah, blah. My submissive side is in there, but it's not a submissive side of me, it's literally another person, okay? It is. It's literally another person that you control, okay? And you let him have input, okay, in all your decision makings. But my dominant side of the brain, which is who's actually me. I mean, we're technically both brains are me, but the dominant brain is the one that makes the decisions, that makes everything happen, right? The submissive side has no control over anything, okay? The only thing it has is a communication device that's called a corpus callosum, right? A bundle of nerves, and that's the only way he has. He can communicate with you pre-decision. You know, before you make your decision, you have to consult him, and that's all the control he has. Now, when you take away that, when you cut that cord, right, with these seizure patients, right, if the other brain was still you, like it didn't have different wants in that, he wouldn't like grab for a candy bar, say, you're like a, seizure patient that is there, cut cord, and his hand takes a candy bar off the table. He don't even know he took the candy bar. He has no awareness of it. Why is that happening? It's because now the dominant side does not have control over the submissive side, which is actually a different brain. Okay? It's still you, but it's a different brain. There's two of you in your brain. You got a left side and a right side. And in a woman's brain, the submissive side has too much control. So that person that's inside you is always, in a woman, is always going to have a lot of control, because she can just scream right through the right through that bundle of nerves. But when you cut them, you lose the control. The dominant side loses some control over what the submissive side can do, right? And that's why the submissive side starts doing stuff. And it's always doing something that's contrary to what you wanted, right? Your conscious mind, your dominant brain side, it didn't want to do that sometimes, but yet the submissive side still does it. So imagine that. A woman is almost like a what do you call that? Like Sybil, where you have multiple personality disorder, multiple personalities in your conscious, and sometimes you'll be a little girl, and sometimes you'll be an old man, and they're all separate, totally separate entities, totally different identities, totally. That's basically what's going on with a woman that's sane. Okay, that's how sane women are. They're basically like siblings.